guys, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. And I know this review is like weeks late because the finale was, again, a few weeks ago. But with this weekend being Star Wars Celebration, I thought this might as well be the best time for me to do it. You know, better late than never. But for those of you who watch my channel, you guys know I did review... Oh, hi Wesley. Where'd you go? Hey, buddy. You guys know that I did review the first half of the season. And, oh, what's up, Wesley? You guys know that I did review most of the show, but I just got behind in the show and I wasn't really able to finish it. And then I tried doing this whole catch-up thing, and then after a while I'm like, you know, like this is just too much. And plus, when I did the catch-up thing, I only got like 20 views per video, which for me that's like why am I gonna waste my time doing several videos when I'm only gonna get like 15-20 people to watch at most. But that's why I want to do the Season 3 review, so that way I can talk about the whole season as well as the finale and the episodes leading up to it. But, and I gotta say, the finale of Rebels this year, the ending wasn't nearly as impactful as it was last season when you had Ahsoka versus Vader, because that was something that was building up the entire season. Darth Vader is, you know, the best villain in Star Wars. But this season in Grand Admiral Thrawn, you really did have a great villain, and some people could say, oh, well, he wasn't necessarily utilized the way he could have been because he let the Rebels get away too much, and I mean, and that's fair criticism. Again, the show wasn't perfect, but I think in terms of consistency, I think this is the most consistent season, because while there are a couple of episodes where I'm like, okay, like, where are we going with this? There were a couple of instances where, like, even though I wasn't necessarily caring about the story of that episode, I did enjoy the episode as a whole. And again, just going back to the finale, I think the finale was great. Again, not my favorite finale, but there's so much to it between the Bendu and the battle with Thrawn, and there was just so much going on. And then like they're slowly like setting the placing the seeds for next season, which, as far as I know, unless I hear otherwise from Star Wars Celebration today, the next season might be the last season of Rebels. So they're planting seeds to kind of line the show up with the events of Rogue One and A New Hope, and something has to happen to Kanan and Ezra, because, to be honest, they can't last unless you find out that like Benicio del Toro's character in Episode 8 is Ezra or something along those lines. Like Ezra and Kanan can't really be around if because obviously Yoda's line to Luke in at the end or beginning of Return of the Jedi, he says, "Last of the Jedi you will be." So Ezra and Kanan can't really make it through this universe. Like they can't last unless something does happen to Ezra and he does turn to the dark side. And I definitely thought Ezra was going to turn to the dark side, or there were going to be seeds planted for him to turn to the dark side in this season, because they set that up in the beginning of the season with with Maul, and you know, just the Sith holocron thing that was set up at the end of last season. But honestly, I thought the way they handled Ezra this season was way better than any of the other seasons he's been. Because for any of you guys who know, like I haven't always been the biggest Ezra fan. Because there's just some episodes where I feel like he just really he does certain things as a character that really bother me. And it's like, come on, Ezra, like you should know better than that. And it just little things here and there that kind of build up to me. It's like Ezra's just not. I mean, he's still young. He's gonna make dumb mistakes. I mean, most of us make dumb mistakes, especially at his age. But I just feel like sometimes it's just the negatives outweigh the positives in him. But for the most part, this season is the most consistent in terms of his character development and him trying to be a leader and be trying to set an example. But then he'll also do things against the wishes of Hera and Kanan and Zeb and Sabine and everyone. But again, I do feel like Ezra was the most developed this season, and I think one of his better episodes was the Twin Sons episode when he goes to find Obi-Wan. And first of all, seeing Obi-Wan again was great. When they had that mid-season trailers teasing him, and then ultimately when you have the throwdown between Maul and Obi-Wan, that was it was a fantastic episode. And Stephen Stanton, I think, is the actor who voices Ben Kenobi in that episode. And he also portrayed the voice of Admiral Raddus in Rogue One, who Admiral Raddus was one of my favorite characters in that movie. Just the way they used Obi-Wan, and first of all, they never called him Obi-Wan, so when he says in A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I haven't heard that name in a long time. That's my cheap Obi-Wan accent. But when he says that, there is still validity to it. Like I was a little worried, especially. I mean, Ezra just called him Master Kenobi, so they had Ben to still be able to say, "Oh, Obi-Wan, I haven't heard that name in blah blah blah." And again, the way they used him was great. I've seen some fans complaining about the way the battle was just too short between him and Maul, but I think it was still a powerful battle nonetheless, even though it was only a few quick moves. Because Obi-Wan was pretty much prepping for this battle. Like, he knew what to expect from Maul, whereas Maul, thought he was going to end Obi-Wan. Like, Obi-Wan knew, and plus, Maul, ever since he found out about Obi-Wan, his mission was to get revenge on him. And obviously, vengeance isn't necessarily a good, especially when you're a Force user, vengeance isn't the way to go. So that's why ultimately you see that Maul was almost his own worst enemy in that aspect. So you see him. Sorry, that's something in my mouth. So you see him going up against Obi-Wan, and he thinks he's this badass. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you down, Obi-Wan," and then because of his kind of predictability, Obi-Wan was able to use that against him and take him down. And again, while you can say it was quick, I think it was so powerful because. First of all, when you're looking at Obi-Wan in A New Hope and just the way he battled Vader, granted it was the 70s and it was just, they didn't think the lightsaber battles were going to be this huge, grand thing. But at the same time, you can't really have him be the same kind of Obi-Wan he was in the prequels or the Clone Wars or whatever. So by having him take those few moves, it's realistic because Obi-Wan at that point, he's an old man. He's not as fast or as quick as he used to be. So again, I just thought the whole battle sequence was great, and I liked how Obi-Wan already knew who Ezra was. And I think the best part of that episode was at the end of the episode where Obi-Wan goes to check on Luke at his home, and you hear Aunt Beru go, "Luke, it's time for dinner," and then you can see Luke running away or running towards them in the distance with the old classic music in the background. That was a great episode. Especially, it was a great place to leave for the finale, because the finale was just non-stop action. When you have the Bendu attacking literally everyone on both sides, because the Bendu is... That's one thing I liked about the Bendu, that he said it, he is the light in the dark, he's in the middle. That he stayed that way, because he attacked both sides. And I really liked it. And I loved how they didn't kill Thrawn. Because Thrawn is a character who, well, I never really read Star Wars Legends books, except for Junior Jedi Knights and stuff when I was a kid. I was really familiar with Thrawn, so I don't have that preconceived notion of who he was in Legends, but I still was looking forward to him nonetheless in the show, and I think he was handled great, and I thought he's too big of a villain to kill off in animated form. I don't know if we'll ever see him in live action. I certainly hope we do, but again, I'm just really happy that we have a great villain in Grand Admiral Thrawn just to come back to the show. I don't know if he is going to stick around the next season, because who knows what's going to happen. And another thing, we don't know how long Thrawn's going to last. I mean, I feel like he has to die at some point, but then the Empire is so big that you can kind of get away with having him, not necessarily in the main foil of working with Vader and stuff like that. So I just thought, personally, that Thrawn was handled really well. Again, there were some episodes where I understand the criticism of people saying he let the Rebels get away too easily, but that's fine. Another character I want to bring up is Sabine. And Sabine, I've seen some people say online that Sabine should be more of the star of the show instead of Ezra. But I get why they want to have Ezra and Kanan be the stars, because it's Jedis, everyone loves having lightsabers and stuff like that. But I feel like Sabine is just of the young characters between her and Ezra. I think she's a better written character and a more interesting character, because her history with the Mandalorians and everything going on with her family and her dynamic with Fenn Rau and all that stuff, it makes for interesting storytelling. And then when she had the Darksaber and all that going on, I thought that was really well done. And I just feel like Sabine she really has grown on me as a character, because at first I'm like, oh, she's cool, and then she repaints her hair every season, and then she paints all this stuff, and that's fine, whatever. But this season was really her, in my opinion, I think it's more of her season than anyone else's. Considering just where she started in the season to where she ended, it's her trying to be there for her family, and she turned her family around, and she's trying to help them kind of win Mandalore back from the Empire. And I thought that was great. And I just think that the way they handled her this season was way better than I think they've handled Ezra in any of the seasons. Again, this is a better season for Ezra, but I think in terms of who was the better written character this season, I definitely think it was Sabine. Another character I really enjoyed this season was the droid. He was also played by Steven Stanton. God, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's the one that sounds like Alan Rickman. I I loved his dynamic. I mean, you guys like the one episode with him and then floating in space singing songs. That was whatever. Some people said that the people who watch like Collider Jedi Council or their reviews, they talked about how they hated that episode. I actually didn't mind that episode. I mean, I like the characters. It was like whatever. But that episode did kind of remind me of Futurama with the Bender in space thing. That kind of reminded me of that. But I did like that little droid, and I loved Chopper this season. Chopper was, and it's funny, a lot of these characters I didn't necessarily love at first. Like, I always loved the characters of Hera and Kanan. Those have always been my favorite characters in the show. But for me, this season, again, between Zeb and Ezra and Sabine and even Chopper, like Chopper again, I didn't like Chopper in the beginning because I felt like he was like just too annoying because he was so anti R2D2. But now it's like that's a quality that I appreciate in him because he makes him different, makes him stand out amongst all the other droids, and that's why I loved seeing his little bit in Rogue One when he just like rolling past the screen when you see Mon Mothma, and then right towards the end of the movie. That was a cool little thing. That's why I loved Rogue One for all the Rebels Easter eggs, because you see the ghost several times in that movie. You hear Hera's name being called, and at that point she's a general. And then of course see Chopper. So I love other aspects of Rogue One that I really liked. And just in general, I just feel like the way that all the characters were handled this season, like there's so many characters that again were, in my opinion, weren't handled the best in seasons 1 and 2, but that I think were handled really well in this season. One character I wish they showed more of was Rex, because I feel like he was just kind of like in the background this season, because last season was when they introduced him back into Star Wars, because after being in Clone Wars and stuff like that. I do miss the character. I know he's there, and as far as we know, he was officially in Return of the Jedi as one of the rebels there, so he lives through at least most of the events of the movies. But I just wish they would show more of Rex, and that because Rex has become one of my favorite characters, and for someone who barely ever watched the Clone Wars, to me was even a standout in that. So I just wish they did more with Rex instead of just having him be like an ancillary background character. I mean, yeah, they had the episode with him and the droids early on in the season, and that was fine. I just wish they had more of him being included with the team. Granted, he's not a member of the core team, but just still like Rex is a fan favorite. I just wish they did more with Rex personally. What else? I just really liked how the show wrapped up. I'm trying to fight for things to remember. Again, I'm glad they didn't kill off Thrawn. I'm glad that they were seriously planting the seeds for the rebellion to be fully formed and where we're seeing in Rogue One. It was so cool seeing Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera from Rogue One, voiced by Forrest Whitaker. That was cool. I wonder if we're going to see any more of the Rogue One characters like Cassian Andor or some of the other characters, because we're getting closer and closer to that time period. And I hope the show at least can. I mean, they're already done with most of season 4 from what I've heard. But if this were to end after season 4, I guess I'll be fine with that, as long as it at least ties into the events of Rogue One and A New Hope. Because I love to see the Rebels teams like their point of view of what happened in Rogue One. I just really want to see that. And overall, I just really want to see where the show goes and how it ends, especially with Ezra and Kanan's characters. But yeah, I think with that being said, I think that's going to be it for me. Again, I really enjoyed this season. There were aspects of it that I enjoyed a hell of a lot more than season 2, and there are also some aspects I thought season 2 did better. I loved Callus's character development, for him being fulcrum in this season, and ultimately him joining the Rebels by the end. That was great. Because I love David Oyelowo, and Callus is another character who I started out hating because you're supposed to hate him, and then he now that he's part of the group, I'm glad he's included. And I think Thrawn was a great villain. I hope we see him back at some point. Maybe he might even still be the villain next season. I just really want to see how this show wraps up, if next season is its last season. So yeah, with that being said, that's going to be it for me. Again, what did you guys think of this season? Sound your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for all my other content I put on my channel. Yesterday, I did my trailer reaction and review to the brand new Star Wars The Last Jedi teaser trailer that was dropped from Star Wars Celebration, as well as my other 13 Reasons Why review that I did for the new Netflix show, 13 Reasons Why. I'm going to check that out, as well as my other videos in general. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, have a good one.